Hey folks, I just want to show you how I sharpen a spokeshave blade. This is a Stanley 151. So this is a flat blade for a more modern, non-wooden spokeshave. So one of the problems is when you have these jigs, these are made for more of the blade protruding out. So there is a jig, I think Lee Valley sells one that can accommodate these shorter blades. So this is a leftover blade that we're going to try to sharpen. So I'll show you the technique that I personally use. All right, the first thing I do is we want to flatten out this back. So marker's your friend. So get the roughest stone that you have. This is 300 grit. I do have one that's even rougher, but let's see. I just hold it up like this. So that's going to take a while. So I'm going to grab my rougher stone. All right, so this is even rougher. So you want the marks to be gone on the entire length of by the tip of the blade. So we have it shiny just in this section right now. So we'll pause that. It's going to take probably 5 minutes maybe to get this done. So I'll pause that and come back. Okay, so about 5 minutes into this. You could spend a half hour if it's really badly out of flatness. So all the marks are gone. I have a little bit at the very edge here that I could keep going on, but I think we'll just leave it like that for now. Now for the bevel part of it, I'll take a marker here, I'll mark that. And it's a little wet, but so the key here, the difference, you could just try to guess and feel where that bevel is supposed to be. You could do that, but some of these blades are 1/16 of an inch. This one happens to be 3/16. The 1/16 are really hard to find that. And then you could try to just drag it back on your stone. But what I find to work better is I hold it with a specific grip, and I'm actually using my thumbnail as kind of the wedge. So I'll put it in here so you can see I eyeball the bevel. Right, so there's the bevel. Then I put my thumb in there. Yes, your thumbnail might get worn out, so if you're getting married or whatever and you need perfect fingernails. So I use that as a rough guide. You don't have to have your thumb there. You can just kind of eyeball it. So I just go back and forth like this. So there's no way I'm going to over tilt because I got my fingers overlapping. So they are hitting the stone, and my thumbnail is kind of just, it's not really hitting it, it's very close to hitting it. But I know if I hit it, then I'm too shallow. So we got that all cleaned up. And we'll just move on to the next grit. I'll use 300 grit here. So you don't really need a jig. I'll do the back. For this you could do it flat as well, it's not a big deal. One-handed, two-handed. You don't need to get the whole blade, just the end part of it. So I do have a little bit more to go here, but right on that very end. Most of it's fine. I typically don't use that very end part anyway. So let's move on to 1,000. I mean, you can put on a TV show and keep going at it. Now we're at 1,000 grit. Same grip here. So I got my thumbnail to 1,000 grit right now. Then we'll go to, I don't have a diamond stone, I have a 6,000 grit here. Do the same thing. Just kind of eyeballing it. You could feel the bevel on this one. I have my finger over the whole length of the blade right here. So a friend of mine was showing me his shooting board, and his he needed so little effort. So he told me he uses this 15,000 grit stone, ceramic stone. I think they're on Amazon, 25 bucks. I didn't believe that it would make a difference. I thought a leather strap at this point would be fine. This thing feels glassy smooth almost. So I put a little water on it. But for me, it does make a difference. So we're just sighting down again. See the shine. There's just the center of it. You could see there's a little bit of a, yeah, it definitely was hollow ground. And I'll show you how. If you stick around, I'll show you if you have a wheel like a Tormek or one of the knockoff versions. Oh shoot, that was bad. We'll have to plane that down. But you can. I'll show you a jig for that. Okay, so that's it. So let me put that in the Spokeshave. We'll see how it works. After that, I'll show you this fancy jig. Not really fancy, very cheap jig you can set up with the Tormek. Okay, back to the Stanley 151. This has the adjustable wheels on it, so you don't need a hammer to adjust it. There are other versions where you need to tap it a little with the hammer. So let's set that in place. Very loosely. We'll get it so it's just kind of, whoop, just so it's kind of holding. I think I got to tighten that a little more. There we go. And we want it protruding just enough. So I like to get it where nothing's coming out first. And we'll tighten that up. We'll give it a little test. So here I'm kind of screwing around and fiddling with it to try to get the exact shaving, but not too successful. Huh? Wow. So sometimes if you get a really thick shaving, you can only get thick shavings, then you gotta look and see, maybe there's a hollow or something on the sole. See, I'd like to get a thinner shaving in that. So it could be that this whole sole needs to be reground, because when I go forward just a little bit, the only way to get a shaving is if I make the blade stick out further. It doesn't look like it's sticking out a lot, but I think so. The next thing we're going to do is take this sole. It's a flat bottom sole, you could see. So we'll take the blade out, put some marker on there, and see if that'll help. All right, so we put some marks on here, and now I'm just gonna see what's going on. My guess is there's gonna be some sort of hollow. So not too bad, but I'm gonna flatten this whole thing out. Maybe one side is worse than the other. So we'll go back to the rougher stone, and I'll get back to you on that. Yeah, so you can see it's a little off here. This is all a high spot right now, and if we had the blade in there, we'd have to skew it, and you might be able to compensate, but if there's any unevenness, you can't. So we're going to flatten this whole thing down, and I'm pretty sure we'll get a better cut with it. So making progress. So yeah, so if I left it like this, the blade would have to stick out further here, and I would think it would dig in order to get this to cut. So you'd have to have actually more blades sticking out unevenly. So let's continue with that. I've been at it for about 3 minutes. One of the concerns is whenever you're doing something like this, will the throat widen? And in some cases it will, especially like on a wooden plane. Some of the wooden planes, you'll notice that the throat is actually made parallel. The walls of the throat are made parallel for a while, just for that purpose. I don't think we'll see a great difference because I'm not taking much metal off here. But we're almost there. Ideally, you'd probably want to get the whole thing removed, get it smooth. So I'll work on that. Come back. You know, we've covered the entire length of the throat. There's a little bit here on the sides. I could keep going. That little bit extra is going to be a lot more work. I don't use this plane typically on a totally flat surface. It might help to have all these at the same level if you're using on a flat surface, but I'm typically using on a rounded surfaces, and I'm not referencing off of these sides. So we'll leave it like that and see how it works. Okay, so I've played around with it, probably about 10 different moves back and forth, and I'm pretty pleased with the shaving. Fairly thin. And that's it. So that's how we adjust or sharpen the blade and adjust it on the Stanley 151. Now let me show you this jig on, if you have one of these Tormeks, how to sharpen on a jig. So let me show you, I got a Tormek here, and they make knockoff varieties of these. So there's a bar here, and we're going to use this bar with a block of wood glued onto it, and that's going to be our jig. So when I made this, you want to make sure that the holes are consistent. So I put the holes right on the end of those holes there, so you can see. So we'll screw that in, and then we'll go to the jig. So this only works, this specific jig works for the 151, the one with the holes in it. Let's go over the Tormek. So I'm just eyeballing right here, and it looks to me that I have it right. I did a little dry run here, or wet run. That's pretty close. I could go in a little more. Let's try that. That might be even better. So this feels very solid. Nothing's moving. I should get a very nice bevel there. Almost done. We're going to come in a hair more. And I'll have to do the back side as well. But this is just showing you that you can use this jig. You can make a jig like this for a lot of different tools. You don't have to buy the expensive jigs from Tormek. I have a miter trimmer, one of those big guillotine things. I have a jig tip for the very awkward blade for that. Just use this as a fence. In fact, while I'm talking about this, I'll throw in a little extra, and that is you can use this fence for your carving gouges. I'm not going to do it, but use the fence. This helps so much with sharpening carving gouges. Just eyeball the bevel like that, and just use the handle so that that handle is your reference. And just give it slight turns like this, depending on the type of gouge that you have. Here's a more prominent one so you can see. But you just find the right bevel angle, adjust it, and then you're good. All you got to do is rotate it. And for me, that's a great way. And you switch over to the leather strap, and you got a nice sharp chisel in a matter of a minute or two. So these are very valuable tools, Stanley 151 or any of the Stanley spokeshaves. Look for my next video. We'll talk about all the different types of spokeshaves that are out there. This actually is not my favorite spokeshave. I'll show you my favorite one on the next video.